Ineme yo tata ale sepene aime ineni. Ineme yo tata ale sepene aime ineni. Ilalakan ngawut, ilalakan ngasat, ilalakan ngawut, ilalakan ngasat, ilalakan ngawut, ilalakan kosat. Falmo sanari ki por kosati.
Growing up in Fiji, I've always known the value of the oceans, but to study environmental law was not in the books for me. But I always wanted to become a lawyer. I had no idea at all that there were any sort of laws regulating activities to do with our environment or the use of our natural resources. When I was in law school, that actually got me thinking. I've always known that our ancestors played a great role in the way we live, traditionally as a people of the oceans. When I came to work for IUCN, I was actually given a responsibility to do research around marine protected areas. And so this really got me looking at challenges that Pacific Islanders are facing. And I'm here at the United Nations with a team from IUCN to provide scientific and technical legal advice to those negotiating the Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdictions Treaty. The treaty is an internationally legally binding agreement that focuses on the conservation and sustainable use of our marine biodiversity in the high seas.
Geopolitics has no place in how we manage our shared global ocean commons.
We're the first one to go because our islands are low-lying. So, of course, we're the one worried the most. You guys living on the highland, some of you deny the existence of global warming, because you never go outside.
The high seas are 2/3 of the ocean. The high seas are all the ocean that is after what we call national jurisdiction.
The high seas are open to all states, but there are certain rights and obligations that go along with that. And part of the problem is that states have not been complying with these obligations.
The treaty is important because it focuses on an area of our oceans that none of the current international legal frameworks really protects or conserves.
This treaty is important because it aims to regulate some forms of human activities on the high seas.
The treaty covers area-based management tools. It covers marine genetic resources, including access and benefit sharing. It includes environment impact assessment. It also includes capacity building and transfer of marine technology.
This treaty will help fight climate change if it helps preserve biodiversity. Biodiversity and marine ecosystems sequester carbon from the atmosphere. By cycling it through the food web, that's one of our best ways to capture atmospheric carbon.
The BBNJ treaty started 17 years ago. 17 years ago, I was 6 years old, and now I'm here, still not having a treaty to protect our high seas, and I'm 23 years old.
The biggest challenge is really galvanizing ongoing political support and enthusiasm about the High Seas Treaty and making sure that there's an appropriate infusion of funding to support all the institutional mechanisms we're going to need.
This treaty is only going to function if it brings all stakeholders in where we want to be in a nature positive world. And that is really something that we will need to learn, in particular from Indigenous communities.
Within the treaty, it's great to see traditional knowledge being considered. It has been mentioned over 20 times in the text, and we hope that it will stay that way at the end of the negotiations.
The traditional knowledge is important to be integrated in the intuitive. We are in the process of recognizing that there are multiple knowledge systems, and what we can call Western science is one of them. But there are other forms of knowledge, other forms of perception, other forms of values we'd like to assign to human and nature.
من مسايغر من بادو ور ريبوسالي غار ودي غار ماري كادوفتر فارتو لم كفاريو شو سوريا تكره يو شو فتري كشي رخور فري كراري لا يا رخو تابوي وام ngam tiga long bakare yoro mene skura mene padu si kuratang fus mero ane mene shu irwane vale kafario shu etai utomo ka longor varmner peihui Wishu stoi para hura aroshu wishu sbo foreign roshu makare natural ngari wishu makare ris fasu relief fasu eu vai har riwade ngare tor to ris fasu fori to makare fasu kos makare fasu kos makare pies mus fasu musu eto te torto seu e mangi bo ngo mari foi essa eu vou orar
The Micronesian area is unique in the Pacific as the only area that has backstrap loom weaving. And it's a technology which came in maybe 1,000, 2,000 years ago from Indonesia. It's really a byproduct of the seafaring traditions in Micronesia. And the machi is the only weaving in the whole region which is a uniquely ceremonial textile. There's several ritual uses of the machi, but it is quintessentially the item for investiture ceremonies for the highest chief. The prayer that is said over the incoming chief when the machi is held up over his head is significant and inspiring. He's advised to endure despite any insults that come with the office. And I think this endurance is symbolic of the endurance of the islands and the ability of the islands to withstand the kinds of challenges that have come with colonial histories and with change in the climate and the pollution of the ocean and the vast changes in the culture. This image of the chief just enduring like the reef. It's a very poetic prayer of the responsibility of the chief to endure and for his people to endure. When I look at the machi, I see all of that wrapped up in the threads.
Ifirmad nab wal min hang mai tasin hibina mai ha halla rumure na fe la poma e pugilo mot pue elas lang pinetongani week month ha fe lang ani ken hibo fera bai e ha kan ie min ka kan le la hai le mata I patok na pa on man korkan mo te hiro tongan ir min karkan lisan fa nga mai ana boyor e bole wa ngang wal ko kule ko sai po ya to ya wal fer fa na ka te pene menai wa pa wa Ine me yo tato ale sepene ai me ine ni. Ina la kano mot, ina la kano sat, ina la kano. Kini bulakai lawa hafe. Ni akan mar e fai fatata. Wa anun hafen. E boy mehai e bo kwa bai we. O man ko he bo hafeni, ra bo har. Ja. E war nahi bolti. Yen min hafen diarrhea. Ne, ye kanuki po minti ranen. Na bukan ini lahor punyal. Ni kene kai la diarrhea. Tongan lahor lahor punyal.
This is for Isaiah, taking it now for diarrhea.
Do you think the ancestors are aware the Earth is in such bad shape today?
I don't really know, but I kind of have a feeling that they might. Otherwise, this knowledge won't be passed on to us. So when it happens, there will be a hope that somebody will stand up and say, okay, let's apply the indigenous knowledge and see if it works.
I certainly think that including traditional knowledge was the right thing for this treaty to do. It can help us bring tools and ideas from past generations to inform how we design the ocean we want.
So traditional knowledge could fit in various parts of the treaty. For example, it is possible that some form of traditional knowledge is used to designate marine protected areas, because traditional knowledge can be used to understand where there are.
I'm really excited if we allow traditional elders to come join in the meetings. We can start to transform our relationship to the ocean and the planet itself.
The kind of knowledge that our ancestors would relate to us, very simple things about the weather, about what season we would be able to see fruit trees, or even the fish where we were able to catch them.
We need to address these challenges now. What we can do is get everybody on board, bring the finance to the table, bring science and conservation, integrate traditional knowledge, have all the stakeholders around it, and get started.
I'd like to say that we desperately need a high seas treaty established in order to prevent more problematic human activities such as overfishing and pollution, which has been affecting and depleting our marine life.
It's common sense. People need to be good to the ocean, because without the ocean, we all die. And what happens out there in the high seas comes to us, and it happens here too. And there is no boundary in between. So we must be good steward, like I always say, because what happens there, it happens here too.